Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a day for Africa and the United States to come together at the National Press Club, the world's leading professional organization for journalists, a place where news happens. And today, news will happen because of our family gathering. I would like to thank the ambassadors and the other dignitaries who have graced us with their presence here today. Thank you so much. For Dr. Yaya Moussa, our founder and president, and his family, this is a labor of love. Now, part of our circle is the National Press Club. We were very proud to be here on January 25th, when for the first time in the 107-year history of the National Press Club, Myron Belkind, who is the 107th president and sworn in for 1 year, celebrated to make the National Press Club an international gathering place. This is his mission. Myron has received journalism awards for excellence throughout the world. He is also a professor in communication at George Washington University. In addition to his job at George Washington University, he also serves 40, 50, 60 hours a week as the president, the voluntary president of the National Press Club. So my friend, Myron Belkind.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Yaya Moussa, Tony Cully Foster, and so many friends. I'm truly honored as the 107th President of the National Press Club to be here today in what is the beginning of what we are calling our International Year of the National Press Club. I speak to you not only as the President of the Press Club, but as someone who reported abroad in Asia, South Asia, and Europe, head of bureaus in Malaysia, India, England, and Japan, just to give you the international flavor. But what I learned from those 40 years was the importance of creating better understanding in the world through learning about other countries, about appreciating the cultures of other countries, about understanding the news in the right perspective of those countries, and that is done through the media, day in and day out, minute to minute, particularly these days with the social media. And that is why the vision of Dr. Yaya Moussa is so important, to establish an Africa Today TV channel here in the United States on one of the numerous MHZ channels organized through the vision of our friend, Mr. Thomas. You know, when I teach now as an educator, I begin my first lecture every semester by saying why I'm often asked, do I want to teach journalism at a time of decreasing jobs, certainly in the print side? And I say, as I said in my inaugural remarks on January 25th, as Tony refers to, because I have optimism. I have optimism about our profession, because I say 100 years from now, I don't know what form the news will be, but I know there will be people wanting to get the latest information accurately and responsibly. And also, what I'm trying to say is that whatever part of the world you are in, the information you get is so important. And particularly to reach parts of the world, including all parts of Africa, through the media, through the expanding TV. Dr. Yaya Moussa, it is, when I talk about to my students about why am I teaching, because I say there are many opportunities arising. When I was young, our dream was to own our own newspaper. It was an impossible dream, because to own your own newspaper, you had to invest in a printing presses that cost a couple $1 million, if not more. Today, because of technology, we can permeate the world with information faster and more comprehensive than ever. Dr. Yaya Moussa, as someone who's been a member of a profession that has seen so many jobs lost, I salute you for two main reasons. Your vision to start a new venture, your vision to create new job opportunities, and most of all, your vision to create better understanding.
Thank you, Myron. About a year ago, my life changed for the better. I met a remarkable man with a simple goal. He loves his continent. His continent is Africa. And he was determined to create something that had not been done before, an African television channel for the continent of Africa and its 54 countries in the United States. It's a big goal, but this is a man with big shoulders, strong intellect, a very strong moral center, and he is a man who is determined to turn dreams into reality. He has former senior executive at the International Monetary Fund, has held distinguished posts in France and in the United Kingdom, as well as in the United States, in both finance and in education. He is at heart an educator. This is what I believe is at the center of Dr. Yaya Moussa's mission. It is to educate people in the United States to the strengths, the beauty, the positives, the hopes, the aspirations, and the great, great people of the continent of Africa, and to build bridges of understanding between the people of the United States and the peoples of Africa, and also to reach out to the great 40 million African American diaspora in the United States. So it is my great honor, privilege, to introduce my friend and professional colleague, Dr. Yaya Moussa.
Tony, thanks a lot for these generous words. I appreciate the honor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Nagadef, Jarama, Mbolo, Sawubona, Sannu, Tisnastelen, Jambo, Assalamu alaikum. And for those who are not Africans, let me simply say greetings to you. My name is Yaya Moussa. I am the founder and president of African Today TV, and on behalf of my entire team, I would like to thank each of you for coming. This event is meant to present the African Today TV project to the African ambassadors in DC. Quite often, stories about Africa by the international media are depressing for the readers and viewers, and even more so for the Africans themselves. Indeed, Africa is usually portrayed as a hopeless land, and Africans as people who need to be helped and salvaged. I characterize the thread of this gloomy narrative as what I call the 5 Ds, namely disease, disorder, death, devastation, and desperation. But this is not my continent. While recognizing the fact that Africa indeed has its own problems and failings, we strongly believe that this is a partial and distorted view of the continent. It is urgent to rectify those misrepresentations of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, the question before us today is why the positive facts about Africa and Africans are so largely ignored. But offering a response is more helpful than asking a question. Therefore, in the spirit of self-responsibility and self-help, as an African, at my humble level, I have decided to establish Africa Today TV to tell Americans a different story about Africa and to show them the successes of my continent. Many international TV channels have some Africa-focused program, but it is my belief that stories about Africa are better told by Africans themselves. This is the essence of Africa Today TV. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for all those reasons, Africa Today TV should be your television in America, Africa's voice and face in Washington, D.C. and the United States. Beyond my humble self, I see Africa Today TV as a continental endeavor, and I respectfully invite you to endorse it, own it, and make it successful. This is the worthy challenge facing all of us. Thank you, and see you soon.
We have our leader, and he has a team. And if you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people or countries working together towards a common goal of success, you have a force more than 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Fred Thomas is a visionary. He has many, many character traits and values that he shares with Dr. Moussa. 20 years ago, he began to bring foreign English language film and television into the United States. He showed great courage 9 months after 9/11 to bring Al Jazeera English into the United States in the hope that the American people would better understand the culture of the Middle East and the Arab and Muslim people of faith who were part of that culture. Fred was recognized by many in his industry as the man who has brought more foreign language, English subtitled television into the United States than anyone in U.S. broadcast history. I would like Fred to explain in his own words his relationship with Africa Today and why he feels it will be a great success with your help. Thank you. Fred.
Okay, so as I am wont to do, I don't typically write out what I'm going to say. So that can be good, that can be bad. I hope this will be good. It's always good when you're among friends, you're among people with the common goal. And, you know, it is not a stretch, it is not a difficult decision to want to help and support and create Africa Today. You know, it's overused that it's a no-brainer, but in this case, it's a no-brainer. There is no ongoing, regular presentation of the continent of Africa through the medium of television in the United States. There is none. So our opportunity here is to be able to do something that no one else has done, and in the process, really make a difference. You know, at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want to do with your lives. Being able to do something that actually matters, that only comes along so many times. I am very excited to be working with this team, and particularly Dr. Moussa. He is a man of great passion around this subject. And typically, these things only get done when there is someone with great passion. Where do I see this going? If 54 countries, you know, the goal will be to create something that's representative of the continent. We, MHZ, will do everything we can to help package it. And some of this is technical. I can tell you in the past, the biggest impediment for entry into the United States was limited technical ability to get out of the continent of Africa, limited satellite capabilities. The beauty of where we sit today is those aren't impediments anymore. We have, little by little, put ourselves into 40 million households in the United States. We have made names of some of Europe's greatest detectives. Content that I can tell you would never have made its way here had we not done that. Those are the types of things that we plan to do with Africa Today. The stars of the respective countries, the leaders, the positive stories, what's really going on in those countries and in that continent, that will, for the first time, have an opportunity to be in real American households on the big screen in the living room. That is not a small thing. Longer term, MHZ is growing. We have some pretty ambitious plans for the networks that we carry, and we're pretty excited to be able to be a part of something that is an area of the world that just is not represented. It's really pretty simple. MHZ is behind it 100%, and we hope to throw our support and make this happen, and we're just as committed as the four other folks sitting here. So that's that. Did I do all right? Thank you.
Humility is a great trait, and Fred has just demonstrated that. He has brought a gift to the world. He's helped change the world. He's helped make it a better place for this and future generations through bringing the power of television from distant places, distant cultures, to become familiar in households, 40 million of them, across the United States. Also on digital platforms, also on apps on your iPhone. So this is a man who is an integral part of Dr. Moussa's team, which leads me to my next introduction, and that is to Mr. Eric Cecil, a nationally, internationally recognized telecommunications lawyer. Worked here in Washington, D.C. for many years for one of the leading telecommunications firms. Has got good exposure and to the television industry, not only in the U.S., but throughout the world. Has been a valuable addition to Dr. Moussa's team, Mr. Eric Cecil.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, the Africa Today community, I'm extremely honored to be here today and very excited. Dr. Moussa asked me to prepare a few remarks about the market opportunities for Africa today. Well, what is a market opportunity? When we look at that, we're going to look at technology, business, trends in society, and trends in money. What do we know about the market, and what do we know about the internet? Well, I'm going to tell you a few things, and I know this not only because of what's happening in the United States, but because I've studied everything that's going on in all of your countries. And guess what? All these networks and economics evolve along similar principles and similar lines for similar reasons. And we're at a point right now in the market and in the United States and with the internet and what is going on with Africa and the advanced infrastructures that are being deployed throughout Africa, making Africa now regarded by many entrepreneurs as the place to be for startup entrepreneurship because of the improvement of your mobile networks and your fiber optic networks, particularly your international fiber optic networks and the networks moving across Africa. What we have at this point in history right now is in the United States, for the first time ever, we are going to go below 40 million cable subscribers. It is an older technology model. What people are demanding is they're demanding that the technology be in their hands and in their control. And they want to be able to reach out and select the content of their choice. So the market right now is oversaturated and it's consolidating because the older content is just not as interesting to everyday people in this country. At the same time, we have an incredible and unique opportunity with the internet and with the technologies, and very impressive technologies that Mr. Fred Smith is deploying and capable of deploying to bring African content into this country. The internet is a two-way platform. And what it offers and the power of this opportunity is to empower the entire African continent to bring its voice, its content on its terms into this country, to define that, bring that across the oceans in the most advanced transport network ever conceived. The internet is a zero-distance technology. We're going to collapse the distances between people, and that is powerful. Because what people can see, what people can experience, what they can hear, when the African community tells its story in its terms, then they can understand. They can create, bring, and pull into this country a very powerful message. And so I was trying to conceptualize, well, how do we value this? How do we put a value on bringing rich, authentic, original content and bringing the voice of Africa on Africa's terms to create new understanding into this country? When that new understanding occurs, that message from Africa is going to shift people's minds. It's going to shift their understanding. It's going to shift the entire market, and it's going to shift the value equation. Because again, what they don't see, they don't understand. And now they're going to see, just as Dr. Moussa illustrated in his comments, and now they will understand. With the technologies that we now have today, with the multiple platforms that Africa Day will be able to move on, both over traditional broadcast media, cable media, as well as mobile and internet, we'll have the opportunity to create incredibly rich experiences and interactions with people all over this country. And what we are going to do here, and what so excites me and inspires me, is we are going to create new communities of interest on your terms and on the terms of the people whose eyes, ears, and hearts are touched by the true and authentic stories of Africa. I could not be more excited to serve. Thank you.
Basically, we are going to proceed in the following order. Where are we coming from? Where do we stand right now? What are the next steps? And more importantly, what role can you and your country play in this? The background, largely covered already. Correcting misrepresentations about Africa. We discussed this at length. Promoting a positive image of Africa by broadcasting the continent's hope and success. This is our brand statement. This is our slogan. Continent's hope and success. But ladies and gentlemen, mind something. Hoping only is not enough. We have to achieve. Success is important. Educating about Africa by paying our dues. Dues stand for discover, understand, engage, and support Africa. Open your eyes, look around. Everybody is in Washington, D.C., except for African TV channels. We need to fill in that void. As said repeatedly, television is an instrument of soft power. For instance, diplomacy regarding development issues, security issues, business connections, education exchange between the US and Africa. In terms of soft power, just think of Al Jazeera and Qatar. This is, by many standards, Qatar, a tiny country, but this is also a very powerful country with a far-reaching voice. The project itself, Africa Today TV, Africa Today TV is a US-based TV channel based in Washington, D.C., but Africa-focused. Africa Today TV aims to become a full-fledged TV. We will broadcast everything television, from current affairs to news, sports and entertainment, politics, business, the economy, film, documentaries, culture, education, reports, interviews, etc., etc. We will start by broadcasting a few hours per day, and we will expand our coverage. To start with, we will be an aggregator meaning importing from Africa TV content from different TV sources, consolidating them, and broadcasting here in the United States. In clearer terms, it means we can have something from Algeria, we can have something from South Africa, something from Burkina Faso, something from Mauritius, something from Angola. We consolidate and we broadcast. We have signed an exclusivity agreement with MSZ Networks, whereby Africa Today TV has a continental type of monopoly as far as MSZ Networks is concerned. We cover the entire continent of the 54 African countries. Eric Cecil has put in place, has already drafted different forms of agreements. Those agreements are readily available. They're at your disposal. Agreements between contracts between Africa Today TV, African government, Africa Today TV, over African content providers. Those agreements are readily available, draft agreements. They are just awaiting your input. I'm sure you're interested. Manifest yourself. Come to me. We'll sit down and discuss and go over the agreements with you. We are contemplating cooperation with continental institutions like the African Union or the African Development Bank. Let's take the case of the African Development Bank. I think we can do a phenomenal job in broadcasting country reports. African Development Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, you know, we can share with the American audience economic reports on the economies of the different African countries. We can do sector reports. For instance, what is the oil and gas business today in Africa? What is the infrastructure business? What are the investment opportunities in timber or in agriculture? We can do that. As far as the African Union is concerned, we would love to cover the African Union summits to inform Americans about what's going on in Addis Ababa. We can cover many other forms of events. Africans generally love football. The Africa Cup of Nations. My son, who is sitting in the back in this room, is a soccer lover. So, you know, whenever he keeps on switching with his remote control, trying to see which American TV channel is broadcasting the games in Africa, to his frustration. So that is going to remedy that soon. Soccer. In South Africa, I think every year there is an important gathering regarding the mining industry in Africa, the Indaba in Cape Town. We can inform the potential American investors about the opportunities lying in the mining sector in Africa. Africa fashion, Africa cuisine, Africa Ouagadougou Film Festival in Burkina Faso. I saw, you know, Mr. Ambassador is here. Yeah, so next year, I take it for granted, we will be invited to cover the African Film Festival in Ouagadougou. So we have a lot of events here we can help publicize here in the United States. We are also contemplating establishing what we call an international advisory board. I plan to have 10 to 20 eminent personalities from Africa and from the United States to advise us on this development strategy of Africa Today TV. Dr. Ribot, president of Howard University, I acknowledge your presence here. Thank you, sir. This is an eminent academic and also an expert on communication issues. I would love to have Dr. Ribot, as a member of the International Advisory Board of the Africa Today TV. This is just one example. We are also thinking about establishing an Africa Today TV Foundation to promote, for instance, U.S.-Africa education exchange, education and cultural exchange. How about establishing an Africa Week every year here in the United States? Cuisine, culinary testing, fashion, exhibit of art, paintings. At my humble level, I'm myself a small art collector. So, music. We can do a lot to show the vibrant and inventive face of Africa. We also plan later on, as I mentioned earlier, to start with Africa Today TV will be an aggregator, meaning getting TV content from different sources and consolidate and broadcast in the US. But we are very much keen on also having an in-house production. I will elaborate more on that when we talk about the summit. Africa Today TV has unique strengths. Mind my slogan, Africa by Africans, self-responsibility and self-help. Africa Today TV occupies a niche, US-based but Africa-focused. Our main target is the African diaspora in the United States, but also, and more so, the so-called globally minded Americans. Through MHZ networks, Africa Today TV can broadcast on digital platforms, the internet, smartphones, you name it. More importantly, by these times where people are very budget-minded, Africa Today TV, you will see it, come to me and let's talk, will be extremely cost-effective. Think about, as an African country, how much you should have paid if you were to pay for a 30-second advertisement during the Super Bowl. Here you will have 30 minutes, 1 hour every day, 7 days a week, 26 days a year, presenting your country to Americans at a very, very affordable cost. As I said, hoping is good, achieving is better. We have to go beyond our today's enthusiasm. We have to deliver. We have to act. We don't just have to be happy about Africa Today TV and dream about what is coming next. We have to take very concrete, tangible steps to launch Africa Today TV. Time is running short. We plan to launch Africa Today TV in July 2014, 5 months ahead of us. It's not enough. We need to act now. The potential market size, we mentioned 4 million people of African descent in this country. Growing awareness by African leaders that media means soft power. Increasing Americans' interest in Africa. Technological progress makes it easier to convert African TV signals and broadcast the programs in the US. Mr. Frederick Thomas elaborated on that. And more importantly, this forthcoming first US-Africa Summit of Heads of States. Carpe diem, let's seize the moment. We are living momentous times in the history of US-Africa relations. Let's seize the moment. Africa Today TV will respectfully ask every African president to make an address of 2 to 3 minutes on the occasion of the summit. Every single African president, an address respecting the following format: 2 to 3 minutes, the concerned African president would explain the significance of the summit to his mind, would greet his own diaspora, and would send a friendship message to the American people. That will be for free, 2 to 3 minutes every single. So, Mr. Ambassadors, you can already inform your respective presidents that we are ready to record, if they can record and send us the friendship address to the American people on the occasion of the first US-Africa Summit. We are going to broadcast this for free. We can also seize the opportunity of the summit to have like a 20, 30-minute report on every single African country. We can call this a Discovery series. What is Botswana? What is Equatorial Guinea? What is Morocco? You name it. Your countries can produce a short video, and we will be able to broadcast those videos to showcase your country to the American people. The returns of your investment in Africa Today TV are multifaceted. Intangible returns in terms of soft power, as discussed earlier, changing the image of Africa, of your country in Africa, building credibility, very important. Enhancing the mutual understanding between your country or our continent and the United States, very important. We also have tangible returns, like boosting tourism or investment from America into your country. The most important single point tonight is your own engagement in that process. And this is what I'm going to talk about briefly. Your personal role as the representatives of the continent. Endorse and champion Africa Today TV. Relay the information to your respective governments, corporations, civil societies. Facilitate contact with them. Encourage your governments, government agencies, for instance, tourism and investment. What can Africa Today offer your country? Covered, but for emphasis, let me repeat a few points. Help connect with your diaspora here in the US. Broadcast company and country reports. We are ready to interview political and business leaders and civil society leaders in your country. Come to us. We will help you raise the visibility and the credibility in your country, of your country in the United States. I would like to give you the opportunity to raise your questions or even your concerns. Myself and my team, we are here ready to answer your questions, and I take the opportunity to reiterate, after my colleagues, my warmest thanks to the National Press Club here represented by President Myron Belkine and Mr. William McKellen. We thank you very much for accommodating us, and we thank you for your support. You've been with us all along, and your presence here is much appreciated. Let me stop it here and we will take a few questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, first of all. And first of all, it's an honor to be here at the National Press Club. As far as Africa TV is concerned, I would like, first of all, to commend you for this very brave, bold initiative that you have taken to fill a gap which has been long sort of not taken care of. A particular question that I want to ask you is, in your presentation, the last part of it, how do you intend, because there is some demands on the governments, I believe, the decision-making, the contribution, how do you propose to proceed with engaging the various or the 54 African countries in making their contribution to Africa today? Because news being what news are, entertainment being what entertainment are, differs from the social, cultural, economic, environmental backgrounds. So what is the line that you will adopt, which is very important to get the contribution of the African governments, if they are coming to that? And the second question is it damn sure that you are starting in July?
Let me start by the second one. Are we sure? There is no doubt in my mind, but the answer is yours. Are you ready to do business with us by July 2014? I did my part. It's now up to every single African country to do his. So, sir, I'm waiting for you. I'm ready. If you tell me you're ready, we play. The first part of your question regarding the practical modalities of all that. How is all this going to be implemented and to happen? I think I failed to mention to you that I made the point, but I did not elaborate. We have 54 African countries. Realistically, we cannot expect to broadcast the programs of the 54 countries. So we have devised a few criteria whereby we're going to select the African countries. And we came up with 5 criteria, which are the role the concerned country plays in African affairs. That role should be significant. Secondly, the relevance of the country's TV and film and documentaries programming to the American public. My colleagues are Americans, Frederick Thomas can tell me. Third, the country should have success stories to tell Americans. That's a very important criterion. We want to tell success stories. Mauritius has a great success story. I made the point to you yesterday. Botswana has a great success story to tell. Natural resource management, economic management as far as your country is concerned. So it's not just a matter of size. When I say significance of role in African affairs, everybody thinks of South Africa and Nigeria. There is quantity, but we also need quality. Of course, South Africa and Nigeria are concerned. But Mauritius and Botswana and others are very valuable, credible candidates as well. So, significance of role in African affairs, quality of TV programming, the size of the country's diaspora in the United States, success stories, relevance of TV programs to the American public. These are the 5 criteria which will help us select African countries. I never said, although I invite everybody, that it will be the first come, first served principle. We have to play by this rule, namely, countries should meet those criteria for their program to be broadcast here in the United States. Second point, I mentioned to you that agreements, draft agreements are ready. If you contemplate cooperating with Africa Today TV, inviting Africa Today TV, you call me, you contact me, we meet, we discuss, I hand to you draft agreements. You can pass on to your governments. We'll discuss the content. We will be looking for your input. Everything is clearly explained in those draft agreements.
I want to believe that I reflect the sentiment of the other ambassadors. For us, is firstly to congratulate you for this very, very honorable project that you have undertaken. And secondly, to wish you well, because the project itself, the content, it's so needed. We thank you for partnering and seeing the vision. But we also ask you to do a national service. When you look at countries like Botswana, we are still having children who don't have school uniforms, who don't have books. Yes, the success story is there, but the challenges of development are still so high in a lot of the African countries. Why? Because at independence, countries like Botswana, we hardly had 4 graduates. So to have built that potential to where we are. Why? Because there isn't a single country in Africa which is more than 80 years old. We are young democracies, 50 years, 40, 10, 6 in Sudan, 2, South Sudan, 2 years. You know, so it calls on people who are very visionary. And now you talk about the contracts that you have. Our minister, for instance, to give the case of Botswana, the budget is already done. If it's not in the budget, it ain't happening until the next budget. So you then have this reality to say, we could look at the contracts and find them very attractive, but it hasn't been budgeted for, and our committees, oversight committees, it doesn't matter if it is a balance on whatever, it would have to go back home if it is not used up. So you have this good dream, you have this understanding of the minute. The reason why we don't advertise on your CNNs is not because we don't know about it. It's because when they tell you about a 50-second clip or 20-second clip, you ask yourself, hey, how many classrooms can I build with that money for that clip? So I think the good thing is that we really are going to know who are our friends. Because it is these private sector companies that have benefited and that continue to benefit so much from our resources that we expect to see them taking the lead, that in fact they are happy about the resources that they are taking. Now the scramble is all over, and we are seeing in Africa a second scramble for Africa coming back into play, which is a little bit different because now it's a scramble which is meeting people who can question, who can say, is that the right thing, who can say, wait a minute, as opposed to the first scramble where we didn't have a say. So look at your NGOs which claim to have interest on Africa. Look at the companies and the private sector which is already benefiting. Then look at us. But here in Washington, even if you bring that agreement, 9 out of 10 times I'm going to read it and say, it kind of looks good. Headquarters, there is the agreement. I don't know. Governments, we operate in different ways. So I think that is to be taken into account, but that is not to also discourage, because I think if we both see a win-win to this baby that we must nurture, I think all of us would move in the right direction. We wish you well and congratulations on the idea.
Thank you, Mrs. Ambassador. Well taken words, well taken advice. Thank you very much.
I have to congratulate you, as my sister have said, for this decision. And people that they are with you are excellent, and God bless you. But the importance of your initiative is because in the United States, American people have to know what is Africa today. Historically, I don't know if they know Africa, how much Africa has suffered. And we would like this initiative to be a complementary element for the effort we have already taken at the level of the continent. I have to tell you that every African country, they have their international channel. Equatorial Guinea, if I go to the web now, I will see. We know what we want. We want your initiative to serve as a means for the American people to know that African, we want to be partners, we want to be respected, we want to be recognized as human beings. My question was, who is beyond? Who are supporting you? Is that really a real political will to accept the world to know today what is Africa? We are coming to the United States to find out a real partnership. Because there are many players who say one thing in their words, but in their heart, they don't love African. We have suffered a lot, and we don't want to have any other intermediators. We want to represent our own continent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very passionate claim. I'm going to get personal here. First of all, there is no hidden agenda. I think I made the point repeatedly. So far, I've been funding everything out of my pockets. One fight at a time. I made the point that every single African should consider himself or herself as an ambassador. How do we want people to look at us? That has been an existential question for me. I've been trying to change people's perception about Africa and Africans. This is the fight I decided to pick. There are many others, and I leave them to you. At my humble level, I came to the conclusion that by establishing this TV channel, I would contribute with my very limited means. And let me stress it, no hidden agenda. I have an investment firm to make a living, and I'm doing this out of passion and as a public service tool rather than a means of making money. Again, one fight at a time.
Mr. Ambassador,
Yes.
I would just like to add to what Dr. Moussa said. All the program content will be coming to Africa Today TV directly from individual African nations. It will be broadcast unedited, unfiltered, as it is received from the national sources. Also, MHZ TV is a public service, non-profit, and educational broadcaster. So I hope this helps clarify the manner in which Dr. Moussa is proceeding in the partnership with MHC networks nationwide. Now we have a special message from Dr. Ibrahim Rasool, the ambassador from the Republic of South Africa.
My dear colleagues, today, the 27th of February 2014, will go down as a historic day, not only for South Africa, but for the continent of Africa. Today is the day when we all hear this great news that for the first time, Africa will have a cogent, coherent, and eloquent voice that will speak to the capital of the world, the United States of America, in a language that they are comfortable with, that will speak about our successes, but not hide our difficulties, that will speak about our growth, but not hide our challenges. And this is what Africa needs more than ever at the moment when it stands on the brink of prosperity. We need to capture the imagination of Americans, their politicians, their business leaders, their civil society leaders, capture their heart and tell them that something is stirring on the African continent. We need to be able to speak on the eve of the biggest US-Africa summit called by President Obama for August. Dr. Yaya Moussa's vision is to launch this TV before that, so that we can set the scene for how Americans will receive our heads of state when they converge on Washington to make the case for why America must choose to do business with Africa. This is what is being kicked off today on the 27th of February, and I urge you, let us go back to our countries, mobilize support for Africa today, and ensure that we will be able to be heard on equal terms with every American as they listen to every other continent in the world. Africa must not stand back. Our time has come, and you have a pivotal role in ensuring that Africa today becomes our voice, and a successful voice at that.
We need ownership by the nations of Africa, collectively, to work in harmony with Dr. Moussa to make Africa Today TV the force that it can be for good for each of your countries who decide they wish to be part of Africa Today television in the United States. Thank you very much indeed for your patience, your participation, and most of all, for your faith in the continent of Africa. Thank you.
I'm very, very pleased to be here this evening to witness the launch of Africa Today Television. This is an excellent initiative by an African who understands African issues. And I believe that the television station is going to assist to highlight Africa's development to the American people.
I must say that the launch of Africa Today TV is a great platform for most African countries, in the sense that they'll be in a position to propagate their agenda as African countries in all the sectors that they are interested in, such as in tourism, mining, good governance, health, education, and so forth.
South Sudan is not fully understood in the U.S., and Africa Today TV will be the medium through which such understanding could be greatly received.
And we hope that this media will serve for the voice of Africa to be extended to the world, so that the people of the world, and in particular the people of the United States, know the real progress and positive change that the African continent is doing. So God bless the people that has made this initiative, and the Equatorial Guinea is looking forward to cooperate with this new TV, both for private and public program. Thank you very much.